Hey everyone, it's Gene from NYC, and if you can hear the sound of my voice, from the sound of my voice, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I ended up having to leave work early because I came down with a migraine. I think the stress of everything is just hitting me a lot harder than I originally thought, but I'm feeling better, which is certainly preferable to feeling worse. RJ's here, good boy. So I just spoke with my family member, and they're not getting, at least from what they tell me, they're not exactly getting the world's best treatment, but they're still alive. So that's good. So I wanted to just share something briefly that I read, and this, I can't necessarily say this makes me happy, but it made me laugh. And considering that I've done a lot of heavy videos lately with the whole Vic situation and all that, I just wanted to share something that I personally found funny. For all the wrong reasons, but I found it funny nonetheless. So I was just reading this article. I was just going online reading this art, and I happened to come across this article from IO9, I think it's called, or something, from like Gizmodo. So I think we already know, the type of opinions that a Gizmodo article is going to have, and I think the writer is, the last name is Elderkin or something like that. But anyway, the article was talking about how both Brie Larson and Kevin Feige, right, were against using Carol Danvers' previous Miss Marvel costumes, right? If you're familiar with the comics, you know that she's had different looks over the years, right? There's been Binary and there's been Warbird and all this other stuff, but two of the looks that sort of have stood the test of time over the years is her 1970s look, which is where she had the red top and the black booty shorts and the boots and all that stuff, and the Farrah Fawcett hair flip type of haircut, and what I believe to be her most well-known and iconic look, which is the black one-piece bathing suit with the lightning bolt on the front and the domino mask and the long boots and the long gloves. Just the black look, right? It's sometimes referred to as the Warbird look. So this article was basically just briefly going over how apparently Kevin Feige got Brie on board, or one of the conversations they had once she came on board was about the type of costumes. And Brie, because Brie's such a woke woman, she noted how if you go further back in the history of Miss Marvel, she wears less and less, which actually is technically true, but it's also a matter of, society at the time, right? Feminism in the 1970s, right, was very different than feminism today. And actually, her original costume, and there was debate. I mean, if you read the letter sections of the 1977 comic online, you'll see that there were some people who were for her costume and there were others who were against it. Nearly everybody thought that the scarf around the throat was a dumb idea, and that's why it eventually got moved to her waistline. I would say the same thing for Kamala Khan. Get that stupid scarf off her throat. Do you want her to end up like Isadora Duncan? Because that's how you end up like Isadora Duncan. Anyway, feminism basically was different 45 some years ago, however long it is now, than it is today. And so, back then, a woman dressing in a more skimpy way, right, was seen, at least by some, as empowering. So, of course, there's never any, historical context added to these type of articles. It's just, oh, it was more skimpy. Yes, but let's keep in mind that her most iconic and well-remembered costume is the most modest one, right, prior to Captain Marvel, which is the bathing suit. And what I found amazing was that the bathing suit costume, again, the black bathing suit costume that apparently is okay for Shade, the drag queen superhero, but is not okay for a actual woman, right? An actual female character in a comic book, but it's okay for the drag queen. But anyhow, how now I lost my place. Basically, how when they were talking about the different looks that she's had and which looks they were going to put in the movie, how Brie and Feige immediately just shot down the 1970s looks and the black bathing suit look. which is Carol's most iconic look. Now, here's the thing. I actually can understand shooting down the 1970s look because that is fairly skimpy. I'm not personally bothered by it, especially when it became just like a one piece on the top. The only thing that ever bothered me about the 1970s outfit, the red top and the black shorts, was that annoying like inverted triangle belly thing. Just visually it made absolutely no sense to me. It was like a upside down triangle or a right side triangle. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but like this triangle cut out of her stomach, and then there was the same thing on her back, and it never made any sense to me from a visual perspective. It's like, why is her stomach exposed? Why is any part of her stomach exposed? It's like, to me, it was either, just give her a full top or give her a crop top. Don't do this annoying middle thing that looks odd and makes no sense. Right? So, shooting down that costume, especially that version of it with the exposed belly, I can to an extent understand. That is a bit skimpy. And you can't have skimpy in today's world unless you're a drag queen, apparently. But my thing is, what was so wrong with her in the black costume? The black costume is, especially out of all the costumes she has had over the years prior to becoming Captain Marvel, is probably the most modest she ever had, and that became the iconic costume, right? The long black boots coming up to like the upper thigh, the one-piece bathing suit, the long gloves, the domino mask, the beautiful, thick blonde hair. That became her iconic look, that beautiful muscular body. That's what she became known for. What is so wrong with that? I understand the 1970s costume. I do. Not that I necessarily agree on certain levels, but I can understand it. But how in the world is the one-piece bathing suit costume skimpy? Who in the world in today's day and age finds a one-piece bathing suit skimpy? It's not skimpy at all. It's positively modest. Let me ask you this. Who's wearing more clothing? Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel in the black costume, or Ronda Rousey? Ronda Rousey wears less clothing, right? She wears basically a crop top. She was wearing a crop top and basically boy shorts when she fought in MMA, and she kept the same general look when she went over to the WWE. She just added weird makeup and these odd references to Roddy Piper. And yes, I know she was a fan of Roddy Piper. I am not a fan of her using Piper's look and his shirt and the kilt and whatnot, but that's neither here nor there. But we're just looking at, sheer amount of clothing worn. Carol's wearing more than Ronda Rousey. Why is it okay for the professional MMA fighter to wear what, according to this article, would be skimpy clothing, right? Just a crop top and boy shorts and little else, right? Because she's there to fight. But the beautiful, blonde, buxom superhero cannot wear a bathing suit which covers more skin. Think about it. When Ronda Rousey fights, right, her entire midsection is exposed. When Carol Danvers is in the black costume, her midsection is not exposed. Maybe it clings incredibly close to her body, but still, her midsection is not exposed. So why is it okay for the MMA fighter and not okay for the superhero? And here's the thing. I will tell you, or for example, Psylocke, right? I didn't hear anybody complaining about Psylocke's outfit from the X-Men movies. And thematically, Psylocke has a lot of elements that are similar. For example, the one-piece bodysuit, right? Hers is similar. Psylocke, at least common depictions of her show her with long, tall, purplish, bluish purple, depends on who's doing the coloring, boots and whatnot. Nobody, jumped on Olivia Munn for basically doing a comics accurate costume for the last X-Men movie she was in, playing Psylocke. So why is it okay for Ronda Rousey? Why is it okay for, movie depictions of Psylocke, but it's bad for Captain Marvel? especially since this movie is going to be taking place in the 1990s when she actually would have been known as Miss Marvel, if you're going by the comics. What's so bad about it? Here's my estimation. This is just my opinion. I believe that Brie, just like Sana Amana, in my estimation, is jealous of a beautiful, blonde, busty, buxom character. The whole thing about Carol Danvers back in the day, especially with that look, especially if you've seen, for example, the way she was drawn by Frank Cho back in the mid-2000s during the solo series run that Brian Reed did, Carol Danvers had this very hyper feminine look, right? It was honestly feminine strength and beauty, right? Long blonde hair, large breast, thick thighs, beautiful, muscular, but still very feminine form. And of course, we live in the age where that type of appearance, here's another person who has that kind of type of appearance, is not accepted anymore. You cannot look, especially in comics, right? Traditionally beautiful, right? You must somehow subvert expectations, right? So they cover characters up, even characters that don't need to be covered up, right? And they take away that aspect of feminine power and beauty, and then they just try to go. It's not even androgyny anymore, because the whole thing about androgyny, at least when I've seen it, is that it actually leans toward the feminine, right? If you look at androgynous people or artists in the media, like glam bands of the 80s, like Poison and Motley Crue and those type of bands, you look at artists such as Prince, right, and others. You look at David Bowie, right? Even look at Queen, because they were a glam band. All those acts had a measure of androgyny, but the androgyny, right, actually leaned toward a touch of femininity, right? A touch of looking and coming across as female, right? It actually leaned more toward feminine beauty than it did toward the masculine. And now today, when you look at characters such as Captain Marvel, who used to be this, hyper feminine, beautiful character visually, and who was this tragic warrior as a character, and that's what I liked about her so much. She was this, how do I put it? Just this. She was a warrior. That's what spoke to me about her. There are older comics. There's like one where like she's being mind controlled by MODOK or something. The little, brain thing, little man brain thing, which looks weird. And like her mind is like literally split in two. And like one part of her mind is like in love with him and worshiping at his feet. And the other side is like, I'm a Kree warrior. I will not give in, death before surrender and all that jazz. And that was the part of her that spoke to me, the warrior inside, that fierceness and that anger that she had, similar to Wolverine. A lot of the same reasons why I like Logan, right? He's a warrior. He's this very tragic, painful warrior who still presses on despite everything. That's what I like in him, or one of the things I like in him. That's one of the things I liked in Carol. This whole, tragic warrior aspect of their character. And that was stripped from her. Her feminine beauty and her fierce warrior spirit were stripped from her to create this empty shell, which is Captain Marvel, who has no personality outside of being annoying, right? And who has this, in my opinion, wholly unattractive look. Over the years in the comics, ever since she's been rebooted, she's either been given this very masculine appearance the whole Carl Manverse joke is because in the earliest comics from like 2012 to like 2014 or 2015, she was given this very, very, very masculine look. I mean, it went beyond butch. It was just straight up, she looked like a guy. If you mistook her for a man, I mean, they even drew her with a man's body. I don't mean like simply, slimmer or, smaller chested or even flat chested. I mean straight up like a dude. They gave her a man's body and then said it was a woman. It's just like, That's all I got to say about that. And now, ever since they tried to feminize her look a bit more for the Life of Captain Marvel book and the new series out, because of course the movie's coming out, they finally gave her hair back, right? So she has this long blonde hair, but she looks like a plain Jane, right? There's nothing that stands out about her, and I miss that about characters. Like, characters used to be made, how do I put it? They used to be made to be memorable, right? There were certain elements about their look that you just wouldn't forget, whether it was their hair color, whether it was the way that they dressed, whether it was a scar, whether it was this or that, right? And you even see this in like Japanese manga still, right? You think of certain characters, like if I say Riza Hawkeye from Full Metal Alchemist, right? A certain image, if you're familiar with the character, is going to come to mind. Certain elements of her appearance are going to come to mind, right? Maybe the shade of her eyes, right? This very unique light brown eyes that she has. She's the only blonde woman that I can think of in the series who has eyes of that color. You may think of her hairstyle, right? The clipped up hairstyle, the hair falling over one eye. If you're familiar with the work, you may think of the giant tattoo on her back and the burn scars that are covering a part of it. That's the type of thing that visual art should do. You should be able to say a name and immediately certain elements of that person's look that are unique to them should pop into your mind, right? If I say All Might, right, from My Hero Academia, right, you might think of a very muscular body, a super big grin, his hairstyle, and all that stuff. If I say One Punch Man, you might think of the yellow costume and the red gloves. You may think of the bald head and the simple art style. If I say, Naruto Uzumaki, right, certain elements of his look should come to you. If I say Superman, or Batman, or Wonder Woman, or She-Hulk, or anything else, certain elements of their appearance should come to you because their appearance is supposed to be unique to them. It's supposed to be a visual way to identify them. They're not supposed to look like everybody else. But of course, because in modern Marvel, you can't have uniqueness, Carol Danvers was again reimagined, and she was taken from looking hyper-masculine to looking like any other white woman you would see on the street, which is exactly how she should not look. She should stand out. She's a freaking comic book hero. She should stand out. So anyway, I've gone on for 20 minutes. I'm going to stop saying that I'm going to keep things short because I start ranting, and it's never short. But anyway, so that was just my thoughts on the article. TLDR, I don't understand how it's okay for an MMA fighter to wear skimpy clothes, but a comic book character wearing a one-piece bathing suit is somehow skimpy or offensive. And personally, in my opinion, Brie knew that. She looked at the older depictions of Carol, looked at herself in the mirror and said, yeah, I can't pull that off. We need to go with a look I could actually pull off. And even then, she still couldn't pull it off perfectly because there's rumors that she has a butt double, right? Because, people saw that one picture of her, right, that showed a very flat backside, and take it from somebody who used to be in shape. Squats, lunges. You want to get nice legs and a nice booty, squats and lunges for days. It takes a long time, but you can get there. Okay? I used to be fit. I know these things. So anyway, she had to get a butt double, right? And honestly, to be fair to her, if she honestly wanted a body that was, closer to even the current comics, where Carol is still very slim, right? She would need a good at least three years of working out intensely to achieve that look, and she doesn't have that time, which is, I understand, and which is why I don't get too upset when actors don't exactly look like the characters. But really, girl? Really? And to Feige, really? You're gonna pick on the most iconic costume that she had because it was skimpy? It wasn't skimpy. It was actually quite appropriate for the fact that she was a fighter. Because guess what? Less clothing that she to grab onto. And again, real life women who fight for a living wear less. So again, tell me why it's fine for Ronda Rousey and Thug Rose and all these other, female MMA fighters. The chick who wears the lion head, she's odd. Why it's okay for them, but it's not good for a cartoon character and a comic character with supernatural powers. So just tell me, just let me know. Anyway, I have rambled on too long. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.